Hey everybody, you may have noticed that this is not a normally numbered episode. It may say the words retroactive episode. That's because this is one of the episodes from when we used to do a little thing called the Reddit Horror Club. There's a bunch of different stuff going on. We're taking a quick break this week. We'll be back with a brand new episode next week. But in the meantime, we didn't want you guys to miss a week of our fantastically witty banner. So
Shenanigans.
we're gonna release this episode discussing horns. This might be. I don't think it's red, white, and blue level mean to the person guessing.
Yeah, second only.
This is a beautiful tie-in to the fact that the person whom we harassed mercilessly during this episode was on the Odd Thomas episode of Horror Movie Night.
Oh yeah, we ripped them a new one on that one too, didn't we?
And he is.
I think we were a little bit nicer on that one than we were on Horns. But I mean, which is weird because I'd watch Horns 3 more times before I watched the first 10 minutes of Odd Thomas.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, we really trashed him for Horns, and I think the problem with Horns was just that there was this whole like, this isn't really a horror movie, and like that was like an ongoing thing with us during that episode. Whereas, like, Odd Thomas was just not a good... This isn't a movie, was how I felt about Odd Thomas. Like, this is just a series of mistakes that someone videotaped and released. So, there's a lot of meanness in this, which is pretty much why we picked it. So, I hope you guys enjoy us really just hating on this movie, which really isn't, like... It's not that bad of a movie. It's probably the most average movie that we reviewed at the time.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, it's really not terrible until like the last 20 minutes. Then it just goes off the rails.
Yeah.
Yeah, that last 20 minutes is just brutal. Like, what was the girlfriend's name again?
Who the fuck cares? I don't know.
Whatever. The redhead girlfriend. Like, her decision-making process, it just thinking about it now still makes me fucking angry that she would do that.
So, at the time that we had done this episode, Reddit Horror Club was more of everyone watches the movie and then discusses it. Whereas, this podcast is way more, we're picking movies that no one in their right mind should ever watch. And we just trash it like crazy. And then occasionally we'll be like, hey, you know what? The Brain wasn't so bad. You should actually try to find a copy of it. Which, side note, thank you to everyone.
Who said that about The Brain? I certainly didn't fucking say that.
That being said, thank you for all of the people who have been listening and sharing The Brain. That episode is doing fucking phenomenal, which is super unexpected because that is like probably the most obscure movie we've done in a long fucking time.
Absolutely.
So thank you for all of you guys out there who are fans of this show and girls, and for emailing us suggestions. And we do have a bunch of your suggestions lined up. I know we don't really mention that too much, but we have pretty much this podcast booked until early July at this point, just based on suggestions from you guys and our picks. So
that's not to say don't keep sending them, though.
So make sure you're sending us your suggestions at hmnpodcast@gmail.com. And in the meantime, enjoy the painfulness that is us discussing Horns. And next week, we'll talk about the painfulness of a movie that has a fart jump scare. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Reddit Horror Club. I am Matt, and if Iggy came to me with his horns, my confessions would bore him to tears. I'm here with Adam, whose confessions would cause him to vomit in disgust, and Scott, whose confessions are just the right balance of both for him to get off to. We are going to be discussing horns, as picked by Saint Mort fan, who is not able to join us. So we're actually going to try a slightly different way of doing this show in an attempt to make it seem a little bit more structured. So let's break down the movie Horns, and I'm just going to kind of go through the plot outline, and any point that you guys have something to chime in, just say stop right there because I want to discuss that for a second. So the movie's about Harry Potter, who's being accused of raping and murdering his girlfriend. He plays a character named Iggy, and everyone in the community believes him to be the prime suspect, and I feel like they never really give a solid explanation on why everyone's just like, yeah, no, totally, that kid who's never shown any signs of doing something like that, it totally makes sense for him to just go ahead and do that.
The confession he gave when he woke up in the car.
Which is like a fucking My Cousin Vinny confession, like if I ever saw one. But yeah, for some unknown reason, he starts growing horns, and he also bangs a bartender who's not a bad rebound. And the horns make people like everyone tells him his deepest, darkest secrets, which causes this to possibly be the first movie in which the phrase "jigaboo" makes an appearance.
Oh my god!
In a while, yeah.
I was like, what?
No. Actually, that's if I would have watched this about 2 months ago, it would have been so ridiculously timely because here in Cleveland area, there was a news anchor who said "jigaboo" music on the fucking air.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and she went like on administrative leave for a week or something like that, and did like some half-assed Twitter apology. I'm like, seriously, you're fucking racist. Anyway,
Iggy was just in the studio at the time, and she couldn't help it.
Iggy Azalea, like, can we stop talking about him as Iggy? Can we just call him Ignatius? Because the entire time, I just want him to be like, first things first, I'm the realist.
He's got one less problem without you. So
Wait, is that Azalea? All I know is that
she makes
sucks.
She makes a cameo. She raps on that song.
She's worth the answer. But maybe Maren would not agree with that.
Well, here's my question, I guess, is did anyone else kind of get fed up with the confessions pretty early on into the movie?
Have you never read a Stephen King book?
Yeah.
Like, this is a Stephen King book. Like, Joe Hill is a total... If he wasn't Stephen King's son, people would be like, this is so fucking derivative. But then because he's Stephen King's son, they're like, oh, it's amazing. It's so good. Like, seriously, watching this movie was like watching a Stephen King book turned into a movie. I mean, it was fun. Like, I definitely enjoyed the first hour of this film. And I did not have a problem with the funny confessions, but they got really trope-ish and by the numbers by the 1 hour mark.
Yeah. Well, okay, so here's where I've got a lot to discuss. So he goes to the doctor's office, which I'd like to propose that the doctor is possibly the best character in the movie.
The best, absolutely, yes. I can love the doctor.
And when he's in the doctor's office, he goes into this this like weird memory of like the story of how he met Miriam, and it involves him like surfing down a log flume and his friend Lee blowing off his hand. And I have a note. This is one of the only notes I have written down, which says, during the scene where they're blowing shit up with cherry bombs, one kid, who has a shitty nickname of Meatbag, is rocking a Guns N' Roses shirt, while Ig's brother is dressed like a fucking newsie, and Glenn is talking like a pink lady from Greece, and then Iggy's wearing a Nirvana Bleach shirt because he's up to date with new underground music. Iggy is one hip-ass 12-year-old. Like,
don't they live in like the fucking wilds of Washington or something like that? And
it looks like a logging town. This looks like if Twin Peaks suddenly got like Nirvana for some reason, like before everybody else.
Yeah, like how did he get that shirt before there was a fucking internet? I don't know.
Well,
I hadn't thought about that, but that's absolutely true. Like that really breaks my suspension of disbelief.
Well, I'm going to burst your bubble and say that his dad is a famous musician, so...
I guess there could be some... and his brother's in a kick-ass ska band.
Dude, so that ska song, because for everybody who's listening, like we Facebook message all day, every day, and I hadn't watched this movie until right before we podcasted, but they had watched it earlier, and so a couple days ago, Matt's like, "Dude, that ska song's amazing. Who is it?" And Adam figured it out or whatever. But I was like, "God, this movie's from like 2014 or 2013, and there can't be a good ska song in it I haven't heard before." And sure enough, there was a good ska song I'd never heard before.
It's a fucking awesome. I want to pick up that band's album because that song is fucking fantastic.
And side note, when we discussed the Mole Man movie of Belmont Avenue, Mole Man of Belmont Avenue, and I was saying how I really liked that shitty song that they made that shitty music video for.
Yeah.
I sent an email to the production team for that movie, and I said, "Hey, I thought that song was really fun. Is there anywhere I can listen to it or download it or something?" And they're like, and nothing happened because it was like this was just for the production. Like they sent an email, like a form email back that said this was just for the production team or whatever. And then last week I got an email from the producer or one of the brothers that did the movie, and was like, "Hey, sorry, we just don't really watch this email very often. Here's a link on SoundCloud." So I'll post that in the comments for this movie. But that was kind of funny that I finally got an email back about that.
That's pretty. Yeah, that is super sweet. Actually,
the song is not as good as I remembered it being in the movie.
Well, while we're talking about music and the ska band, I really like the soundtrack to this movie. I mean, it's mostly just like a mixtape of songs that you know already, but like you've got some
David Bowie songs.
Well, like David Bowie, and there's I think Pixies' "Where's My Head" is in there, and like it's
Where's
just
My
like,
Head? The Pixies song "Where's My Head."
Or "Where's My Head?" Yeah, "Where's My Mind?"
Also, can we have a moratorium on using that fucking song? I know people are always like, "Oh, Fight Club did it best." It's not even that. It's that 150 fucking movies have used it. Just stop fucking using it. I don't want.
Yeah, dude, listen. When I loved Goaty Hook, and Matt and I have discussed this. I loved Goaty Hook back in junior high and high school, and they covered that song in like 1998, and I was tired of it. I mean, it's a good song. I respect the Pixies for writing that song, but I've heard that so many iterations of that song, I could not give a fuck if I ever heard it again.
So I think back to the movie. I think it's during this flashback that we also get the Juno Temple nude scene, which is a strong contender for best nude scene of this round.
Yep.
It's pretty fantastic. I'm kind of curious Scott's opinion because he is the resident nude scene expert,
booby expert.
I don't know. I've always had a penchant for redheads, but I don't find Juno Temple attractive. I mean, I aesthetically understand that she's a pretty redhead, but I can't stop looking at her forehead.
Yeah, she's definitely got a very unique look. It's not even.
I mean, she's just not my type. And honestly, the nude scene didn't do it for me. If I'm gonna pick best boobies from this movie, I'm gonna go with the nurse that gets banged by the doctor while Iggy is under sedation. That was great.
Okay, so let's jump to that real quick because I do have a note here, and you two might be the only two people that know what I'm talking about. But the noises that Ig makes when he wakes up from that scene are literally Trey Parker's gross out noises in basketball. He's just like,
I'm drinking fat liposuction out of Marlon Brando's ass. Why am I doing this? It's so salty. This guy must have ate a lot of pork.
Oh, I found one of Karen's mom's pubes.
Sweet Psycho, dude. Oh, it's another one. Dude, hey, speaking of awesome ska songs,
fucking the Take On Me cover by Real Big Fish.
Yeah, so I had listened to Real Big Fish. I knew stuff from Turn the Radio Off because, like Sell Out was the biggest song of 1997 on alt radio in my area, or maybe 96 or whenever it came out. And I was like, yeah, I like that song, but I didn't seek it out. And then I saw Basketball in 1997 or 98 or whatever. And first thing I did was I stayed up all night and jacked it 3 times to the girls that were the cheerleaders in one of the groups. I don't remember which one, but or maybe it's only twice. I don't know. But I remember staying up really late jacking it when I borrowed or when I rented basketball. But the other thing I did was I became very, very deeply enamored with Real Big Fish because of their Take On Me cover. So there you go.
So he leaves the doctor's office, and this is where the reporter fight sequence happens, which is probably my favorite of all the confession / suggestion stuff. Which then I found out was in the trailer because I never watched the trailers until afterwards.
I didn't watch the trailer either.
I'm like, oh, that's like right in the trailer. That kind of ruins one of the better moments.
Well, the best part about that is that I don't really. I wanted to ask you guys this. As an aspiring writer myself, I've always written stuff, never like shared it or anything like that. But I like to write stories, and when I write stories and when I write lyrics for Survivor Girl or whatever, I find myself writing tropes like somebody picking up the phone. Like, you don't pick up a fucking rotary phone anymore. Just like the newspaper reporters, do they really have those over-the-shoulder cameras anymore? I mean, I understand for comedic effect it makes a whole lot more sense for someone to get bashed in the fucking head with a thing that looks like it weighs 20 pounds. But do they actually use those anymore?
I don't know. That's a good question, actually.
What does this movie take place in 2014? Because he's driving around in the Gremlin and like.
But I think he's driving around in the Gremlin because, one, they look fucking awesome, and two, it's a Gremlin. You know, like, I think that's just a nod to... Yes, exactly.
Okay, well, it's at this point that both of his parents confess to him that they don't believe that he's innocent. And Ig finds out that the surprise witness in the case against him is Heather Graham, and the audience is surprised that Heather Graham is still acting.
And the audience was definitely surprised that Heather Graham still looks great.
Yeah, no, she still looks pretty fantastic.
It's like, how old is she? I have to look it up.
I think she's almost like 45-ish.
Almost 45. I thought you were going to say 50. I was like, no way.
Yeah, no.
She is actually 45 as of January 29th today, this year.
All right, look at that.
She's. If I look that good at 45, I'm be happy.
So this is where he finds out that Lee can't see the horns. Also, and
That's cool.
Ig believes that it's because he's too good of a person, and then we find out later that the actual reason is because he's wearing Miriam's necklace. So he removes that necklace. He sees. Then suddenly Lee can see the horns and confesses to being the murderer. And this is probably where the movie should end. But the numbers on the screen tell me otherwise. So
this is where the movie jumps the fuck out of the shark, just goes right off the rails.
And from what I understand, because I only literally have 2 other notes of what happens in the movie from this point on, but it's like 45 fucking minutes of film. I actually took the time to go on the Wikipedia page for the novel Horns and read that as well, because I felt like there had to have been shit that's missing, because stuff just doesn't make sense from this point on. So instead, so basically, Lee murders Ig, but for some reason the Horns keep him alive, or something. They never totally explain that. But then he puts on Miriam's necklace, and his body is restored to normal, sans horns and everything. He finds a note that's a confession from her, which we could talk for fucking hours about how fucking stupid her plan is. But basically, she was sick, and that's why she didn't want to marry him. And then he takes the necklace off, and he turns into some type of flaming devil creature and murders Lee, and then turns to ash.
I thought that was so stupid.
Yeah, like the movie just fucking falls apart in the third act.
That was like every religious horror flick from the 90s. I don't know if you guys remember that time period, or like, not that you don't remember it, but if you ever noticed that thing that was happening in the 90s when it would be just like, it would build and build and build to the most special effects they could do at the very end, like Stigmata and End of Days and all, or whatever that, the Sixth Day, or whatever that Arnold Schwarzenegger religion apocalypse movie was. But like this movie felt so 90s in the worst possible way at the in that last 20 minutes. And I was just like, I can't wait until this is over.
All right, so The book explains this more, but I'm going to take this strictly from the way that the movie presents it. The movie has this one trend that I absolutely hate, which is that the nicest character possible is revealed to be the murderer, which is fine if it's presented as like an accidental death and that he has, like, that he's, trying to basically self-preservation, but he actually shows no remorse for the actions, and furthermore, like, unless it's supposed to be that he's under the Horn's power, which is the other problem with this movie, doesn't have time to establish any of its mythology, really. But he's, like, borderline gleeful about what he did, and then when he's trying to murder Ig, he's saying things like, this is going to be fun, and I always wanted to do this, and then gets, like, super excited and laughs when he blows off Meatbag's head, and, like, it just doesn't work for me at all. But in the book, it explains that he's, like his nice, like, he's fucking crazy, but he's able to do crazy things that people think are nice. Like, his mother is, like, dying, and instead of, like, doing the right thing, he likes to keep her alive so he can torture her, but everyone else perceives it as, like, he's just this really nice guy taking care of his mother, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like,
that is the most Stephen King bullshit I've ever heard. Also, when all the childhood friends minus
reunite.
Glenna, that is the most Stephen King thing. Also, like, Joe Hill's a total hack. I have to read the book, but he definitely is basically, like, deconstructing the things that made his dad's books famous and doing them as well. And
I don't want to go as far as calling Joe Hill a hack, though, because I love.
Seriously,
I love.
If anybody else,
and I agree.
If anybody
read Lock
else
and Key
did
before
that,
you completely write this guy off, because Lock and Key is fucking amazing, and there is some Stephen King in there, but it's a whole other fucking thing, and it's
I
really,
actually
really
liked. I haven't read Horns, but I read his book Heart-Shaped Box, which I also liked. And, like, yeah, I mean, he's always going to get. And I agree with what you're saying. If he wasn't Stephen King's son, people would shit on him just for being this person who rips off Stephen King.
And if he wasn't Stephen King's son, he wouldn't be famous.
Well, no, but that's not true. That's the whole reason why he published under Joe Hill.
Stop.
Okay.
Stop. I know. Megan and I had this conversation yesterday. I can cut you off the pass to save time. It doesn't matter that he's calling himself Joe Hill. Everybody fucking knows he's Stephen King's son.
They do now, but not until, like, the third or fourth book.
It doesn't matter. Listen, it doesn't matter. That's the whole point that I'm getting at, is that he is probably like, hey, Dad, I made this manuscript. Let's put it under a pseudonym, but could you please show it to your friends at these publishing houses? So it doesn't matter. It's still nepotism.
I mean, it's the same thing, though, but that's like like, I have an issue with Tucker and Dale versus Evil, because the guy who directed that says how hard of a struggle it was to finance the movie, and he's fucking Sally Field's son. Like, how hard
that sounds like bullshit.
But anyway, we'll get off. I would still say that don't write off Joe Hill until you've read Lock and Key, because that comic is
okay. I'll read Lock and Key, but I don't think I want to read Horns.
Yeah, I mean, Lock and Key is and Lock and Key is a comic book series, so it's fucking fantastic. But the other pet peeve that I have, and again, I don't know if this is bad translation from the book or whatever, but I hate when narration is, like, super inconsistent and literally just reiterates things that we already have figured out ourselves. Like, literally, there's a point where the only narration is the horns were a blessing, not a curse. And it's like, yeah, we fucking figured that out, buddy. Like,
you know what? My biggest problem with this movie is the fact that the screenplay is shit. The direction and the cinematography are great, and the acting is actually really good. Daniel Heathcliff was great, and I liked everybody in the movie. And I didn't not enjoy this film. I don't mean to be shitting on it, like sounding like I didn't enjoy it.
I would rewatch this movie. Like, this is not a movie that I would
watch it and turn it off at the 1.5 hour mark.
Yeah.
I would turn it off after he gets, like, thrown into the lake.
Aang's brother's overdose scene is fantastic. Like, when he's
that was really cool.
Yeah, that scene's fucking so cool. And, like, this is a director who I usually either like even the movies I don't like by him, I still think are visually interesting. Like, I'm not a big fan of the Hills Have Eyes remake, but I think it's visually interesting. And Adam and I talked earlier about how Piranha 3D is, like, his masterpiece that'll never be topped. But this is probably...
I'll have to watch it.
You've never seen Piranha 3D?
No. Why?
Okay, I tell you what, I'm gonna pick that for next round because it's actually so much fucking fun. It's awesome.
All right. Good. Now we all know what we're going to pick next round. I'm picking Slumber Party Massacre.
I won't say what I'm going to watch, what I'm going to pick yet, but for a hint, I will say...
Dude, I just went from 6 to midnight. I'm so stoked.
Did anyone notice
I think I might
Lee's
drive back to Philadelphia just to discuss that movie with you.
Did anyone else notice Lee's fake fingers? Because they look fucking retarded.
Yeah, they're terrible.
Yeah, they have
Look,
weird,
I put
like,
these
string.
2 cones over my real hands.
Like the whole time I'm like looking at his hand and I'm like, they look like he's just got normal hands, and then there's a close up of his hand. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like that is the shittiest fucking fix of 2 fingers being blown off I've ever seen.
Do you remember Royal Tenenbaum where Gwyneth Paltrow has that weird wooden finger the whole movie?
Yeah, and the whole
like,
joke is supposed to be how shitty it is. Like, oh god damn it. So do we want to talk about why Miriam's plan is the worst plan in the history of fucking cinema?
I'm going to save you from the horror of my dad's life. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. I jumped around a little bit right at the end because I was like, I'm over this. After he got that final confession, I was like, eh.
Well, that's right. But like the idea of just like, and I'm going to propose a question to the few women in this club. Like, I want to know, do you think that this is like a logical good plan? Like, is this just like guys' perspective of it being like, this is stupid? Because in the movie they try to make it seem like it's this selfless and romantic gesture, but like it seems
it's incredibly
super fucked up.
Selfish. Actually, it's crazy.
When I was in high school, there were 2 girls that did the same thing when they were like, we can't be together because of like college, you know, and or whatever. And so I don't know if that counts as like, you know, an actual analog, but
she explained it as we can't do this because she didn't lie about cheating on him so that he would hate her and be like make it, quote, in her mind easier for him to get over her. Like it's so fucking asinine of like, I don't want to hurt you, so I'm going to tell you the most hurtful thing a human being could tell another person that's been in like a 10-year relationship together.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up together and we know each other better than anybody, but we can't just sit down and have a fucking conversation about this, can we? Like, my will's not strong enough to say no. Blah, like, fuck off.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was supposed to be romantic. Seriously, though, Joe Hill wrote that in, like, I'm sure that he wrote that scene thinking, like, what is the most high school bullshit that I can put in this book?
The only other note I have here is, I'm glad the only witness to the end of this movie was an established drug addict. Good to know a reliable source will be getting the truth out to the world.
That's pretty good.
So, I mean, do you guys have any other discussion points, or do we want to hop into Adam's notes?
I have stuff that I want to discuss, but it'll tie into the notes. So.
All right, well, let's just hop into notes then.
All right, these are the notes for horns. You know what's a shitty way to start your movie? With a really cheesy voiceover. Don't do that. Don't do that with your movie. Harry seems to think that no means yes. Because he's like, let's have sex. She's like, no. He's like, yeah, come on. Hey, dude, if you don't want that fucking Bowie record, if you're just going to wreck it, I mean, I'll take it. Don't.
Dude, I was the same thing. Oh.
I was so mad when he was doing that. I was like, fucking stop. Fuck. Yeah, pissing on your dead girlfriend's grave is really not the best way to go about proving your innocence.
Yeah,
I thought the same fucking thing. I'm like, what is he doing?
And then, like, Glenna comes over and she stops him midstream. That must be the most painful thing that happens to him in the entire movie.
And then she's like, I want to ride on that.
Well, he was hammered, so you know as soon as he put his dick back in his pants, he just pissed all down his leg.
And then he talked about, he was like, you could see my horns. If I saw somebody with horns, I'd piss my pants or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, dude, you just did.
We get some really lovely sound effects when the horns are popping out through his head. They're like, fucking gross. Wow, what a fucking lame way to die. Is fucking trapped under logs in your tidy whities. What a shitty way to go.
Wait, so here's my question with that, because that was kind of that in itself, I started to wonder if this was going to go into like a supernatural element, because it literally seems like the logs are purposely moving to block him under there, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, is he, like, it doesn't make sense why he can't just squeeze in between some of them, or even like he's trying to like move them with his hands, and they're refusing to move, and they actually just seem to purposely form together the second that he's trying to get out. Like, I don't understand what's happening there.
The waves created by a 90-pound child are not going to be enough to move 1,000-pound logs. It's just, the water displacement is not going to happen. It's just...
By the way, I did have a note that I ended up deleting because they acknowledge it in the movie, but I did write, not to nitpick here, but he's not naked. He's wearing underwear and
well, Meatbag
sneaks, and then Meatbag calls it out afterwards. I'm like, oh, I guess I'll delete that note.
Which I guess he just wanted to see him naked.
Yeah, because they established that he was...
Yeah, he likes...
Yeah.
Anyways, too much child acting in this movie. I don't enjoy child acting, and this is not that great. Not terrible, but not that great. Have you guys ever tried to fuck in the woods? Like, it's gross. Like, she's all up against, like, a moldy, fucking mossy log, like, rubbing all up in it. That'd be gross. You wouldn't do that. And then his mom has that monologue about how she hates him or whatever. I'm like, we should have picked this for Mother's Day. That would have been I watched this on a Wednesday afternoon, and I was not ready to see tiny old man cock in that bar.
Yeah.
It was really too early in the day for that.
Speak for yourself. I started my Sunday off right.
I forgot about that scene.
So they established...
It's almost like you forget about it as soon as you look away from it.
Yeah. That old man's got his own horn.
It's only slightly more gnarly than Daniel Heathcliff.
And discolored. So they established his brother as this, like, really famous, and it seems like really well-off musician, but he just plays the horn in the ska band.
Yeah. What, ska?
Yeah, nobody gives a fuck about the horn players of the ska band, all right? Unless you're a white man in the Boss Tones or the singer in Real Big Fish, nobody knows you.
I was gonna say, I will say that I know from hanging out with Scott Kloppenstein a couple times that he actually told me that, like, man, the money that he made, because he was like into every fucking drug for a really long time, and he's like, you know, when you're an 18-year-old in a band like Real Big Fish, like, after you've bought every video game and comic book that your heart's desire, and you still have money to blow, he's like, you just start doing really stupid shit. So, like, I would absolutely 100% buy that if this band's supposed to be a semi-established, well-known band, like, maybe even if they are, like, a Real Big Fish, like, we're supposed to buy them as a Real Big Fish that's, like, maybe not as popular now as they were, but were at one point, I would absolutely buy that he's, like, still got a nice house and, like, fucking addicted to drugs, like, just doing whatever drug he can get his hands on. Like, I will accept that.
Alright. So, this is a real incestuous group of friends. They're all trying to fuck each other. Everybody wants to fuck the one girl, and it's weird. This is some Stephen King shit for sure.
She's just giving blowies to anybody who asks.
Yeah.
Candies. Yeah. Oh, no, I guess they did say blowies.
Yeah.
It reminds me, all I could think about was, do you guys listen to the Mortified podcast?
Yep. It's the best. It's one of the best podcasts out there right now.
I'm surprised that you like it because you haven't blown it on the on our podcast ever.
Because there's no way to connect it to this podcast the way I can with the other ones. But no,
true, here's the way that it connects. There's that one where the girl's talking about her friend who she's like, so-and-so is such a slut, she's always giving handies or something like that. She's like, maybe guys would like me if I gave handies. I'll find it. I'll try and post it in a...
So I had the the host of that podcast on St. Mort's show like a month or two ago. Oh,
really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He came on to promote the first episode of Mortified.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, he's a cool dude. But, all right, so, yeah, they're all trying to, the super incestuous group that just wants to bang Glenda.
I'm surprised that this
exactly like the kids from It.
Yeah, I'm surprised that this movie's solution wasn't an orgy with Glenda at the end. So, you don't remember how It ended?
I was about to say I am actually pretty proud of Joe Hill for not adding that in because I could really do without it.
Okay, so then it's the scene with the cops in the car and he makes them blow each other. And I'm just wondering, does this confession scene with the cops remind you guys of a certain podcaster's shower confession that we might have heard not so long ago?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Let's just gloss over that. We're good. I'm happy to see the waitress get hers, and in like a really brutal way too. I don't know what those snakes were, but it seemed like he was just causing like necrosis all over her body. So,
yeah.
All right, I got a multiple choice pop quiz for you guys.
Okay.
All right. A, let you live. B, finish that off. Choose one. It's when he's getting the brother to do all the drugs, and he's like, no, I'm going to let you live. But why don't you finish all that off? You only get to choose one. You're either letting him live, or he's finishing all that off. Juno Temple really was leading that Lee guy on with like all the forehead kisses and stuff. I can kind of get
forehead kisses are how I got my wife. I'm pretty sure that they're not as innocent as she thinks they are.
Yeah, I mean, she was just is really, really naive to think that this. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't.
Well, she's probably emotionally stunted because she's only been with Daniel Radcliffe her entire life.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. Why do people think in movies that the correct time to make your move is when a chick is sobbing uncontrollably? Why do they always go in for the kiss then?
Because she was already wet, bro.
But
We're going to edit that out of this one.
No, that's staying in there. Scott says something stupid, I'm keeping it in there because I keep all the stupid shit I say in every time.
Alright, so then we get to the Lee thing, and it's like, if you've never seen this movie before, you're probably imagining, like, oh, it's going to be a sad ending. But nope, this movie's about to go crazy. Here we go. Not only is he hard to kill, as he said, but he's seemingly fucking immortal, which, okay, you just gotta roll with that. I mean, everything else in this movie's been pretty weird so far with the horns and all the supernatural shit, so we're just gonna roll with the punches. But then he puts the fucking necklace on, and it's like, oh, my dead girlfriend's ghost done cured my demonism. Well, that's okay. We're just gonna go with that, too. And then I have an excerpt from the letter that she wrote Ig here. Dear Ig, I'm a selfish ass who literally ruined your life because I'm an idiot and I don't understand how love or relationships work.
So it is high school.
Yeah, direct quote from the letter. All right, we get to the end scene, and I'm just like, are you ready? Are you fucking ready? Yeah, that's right, motherfucker. Welcome to the King family, where the endings don't matter, and it's Dos Ex Machina town all over the fucking place. Who cares? He's a demon. He's an angel. He fucking... I don't know what's going on.
Everything.
Neither do you. Neither does Joe Hill. Nobody knows. It doesn't fucking matter. What is that shit? How... Like, this is... Do you guys ever read The Stand by Stephen King?
I tried, and I'm going to try again, but I wasn't digging it when I gave it a shot this year.
Dude, The Stand is not something that you enjoy. It's something that you...
Don't...
Well, now I'm in the middle of it, and I'm actually kind of cruising through that pretty easily.
It is a really good read. It's also in the summer of 1958, which makes it awesome.
Yep, I agree with that. Well, and the other thing that I think helps... And I was talking to someone about this. Stephen King is one of the few people that I recommend you watch the movie before you read the book, because he gets so wordy.
Because your expectations are so low.
well, no, not just because of that, but because he gets so wordy and talky in parts that, like, if you already know the basic plot line, you can get to a chapter and be like, you know what, I could probably just skip this chapter and not really miss anything. And, like...
Oh, he'll spend 3 pages just describing how green the grass is, and you don't need to fucking know that. Nobody cares. But yeah, it's at the end of The Stand, like Deus Ex Machina, the hand of God, that literally happens at the end of The Stand. Like a hand descends from the cloud and just like, boop, saves the day. Bye. Like that's the end of the fucking book. And it's like, what? What are you fucking doing?
And there are tons of gay hand jobs in that book, so it really is, you know, the same as this book. So.
Okay, and I have one last question. So there's a line where he goes, where he puts the necklace on, and he's like, I could feel the spirit of her around me, protecting me, blah blah blah. So it's like, okay, so then we're led to believe that whatever, she's like imbuing him with these powers, or at least, you know, like aware of what he's doing and what's going on. So she wrote that letter. She broke up with him because she didn't want to ruin his life. But then when she dies, she gives him the power to get revenge and in the end die anyways.
Yeah.
But hey, obviously there's an afterlife, so he can spend the rest of eternity with her, and they can just chortle together, be like, we really fucked that guy over.
Fuck you know, what? Oh, Joe Hill, you fucking... what are you doing? Yeah, the King family legacy is... it's going to be... The first half was awesome. That's the legacy they're leaving behind.
I like that you say that in like a Mike Birbiglia type voice, too.
Actually, I think that should be the tagline for every Stephen King book ever. The first half is awesome.
Yeah, every critic's review, like every blurb on the back should just be like, stop at page 256, save yourself some trouble.
Let's be honest here, if it's halfway through a Stephen King book, it's page 700.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's my notes. I like it enough. This is the second time I've watched it. I'm never going to watch this fucking thing again. And I wouldn't suggest other people watch it really either.
Wait, so was this your first time watching it, or had you seen this previously and then rewatched it for notes?
I had seen it before.
Oh, you saint. You're a saint.
Yep.
Yeah. No.
Gotta do those notes, man.
Oh, man. Yeah, this... I would watch this again, but not for a very long time. Like, this is not like a top priority movie for me to re-see. But... I mean, there's enough, like I said, like the drug, like the scene where his brother's overdosing and stuff like that is cool enough that I would want to have this on my shelf, if for no other reason, when I do like my, Halloween mashups at the end of the year, or every Halloween. Like, there's some really cool stuff in this movie, but it's definitely buried amongst a whole lot of garbage that you got to sit through. And an ending that you don't need.
The acting's really competent. There is, like some really... I mean, I like the concept, too, although they kind of just really take it out of hand and, like, overboard. But, yeah, it's good. Do you guys know who the original person who was going to play Ig is?
No.
Sorry, Ignatius.
I actually read this on IMDb, and I can't remember, though.
Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, yeah, that's the one.
I'm really glad that Daniel
That would have been amazing. That would have been so funny to watch.
It would have been a great double feature to go with Disturbia, the other pseudo-horror film that Shia LaBeouf was in.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.